to kind of start us off. So I don't know if y'all heard about this. Historical performer wins settlement after the library canceled show over race. So to give you the TLDR, there was a performer, quote unquote historical performer, that wanted to do a show about historical figures. And as you can imagine, we just came out of Black History Month, so it would largely be around historical figures. So they presented that to the library in question. The library said, "Oh, that's a great idea." When it came time to start talking about the casting, they said, "Okay, who's going to play Harriet Tubman?" She said, "Oh, that would be me." The library said, "Ma'am, you are pale skin. You are a pale skinned white woman." And there was a bit of back and forth. It turned to a legal matter, and ultimately they won. They won, not won. Sorry, they came to a settlement agreement to where
They being the performer.
yes, the performer received the settlement because the library effectively discriminated and canceled their show over the fact that they wanted to perform as black historical female figures. Now, some of that may be a little skewed into our timeline. We can read the article, but maybe the video goes to the video. Maybe the video just breaks it down.
Oh,
That's why I didn't want
So
to.
there are similar.
Annette Hubble wrote a one-woman show. She portrays historical figures, white like herself and black.
It never occurred to me that that might even be an issue.
She says Rancho Santa Fe Library asked her to perform her show for Women's History Month. She gave them a list of
Women's History Month,
characters to
sorry.
pick from. They chose Harriet Beecher Stowe, a white abolitionist, Mary McLeod Bethune, black civil rights leader, and Harriet Tubman, who escaped slavery and rescued others. A couple weeks before the show, they asked Hubble to swap out Bethune and Tubman for white characters.
And I said, why? And they said, she said, because it's not appropriate for you to be doing this. You're a white woman. And I said, oh, no, no, no. You don't understand. I'm honoring these women. And she said, it doesn't matter. And I said, you mean I'm only to perform women whose stories of bravery and courage that should be told if they're white? And she said, that's pretty much it. So I'm not getting it. So I said, well, tell me how this is different from the Hamilton play.
In Hamilton, non-white
Pause it.
actors portray white.
Great place to
crazy
pause it at.
freeze frame.
Anyway, so as a premise, again, my apologies for some of the nuances that I said that made me not be aligned with the facts of the matter. But this is why we pulled the video and look at some of the facts of the matter. So, like I said, you have this Caucasian woman. They are a historical performer, and actually, I guess one important detail: the library actually reached out to them, and then later down the line they changed some of the casting details. But I think we can kind of understand the premise. Obviously, we'll watch more of the video to get more context. But by and large, starting off, what are we thinking? This kind of sucks. I don't know if we're gonna have to play white devil's advocate or black devil's advocate. Is there even such a thing? But what do y'all think? I mean, this kind of get into a lengthy conversation as well because it kind of dives into like representation, like that whole internet back and forth about whenever like you see God forbid you see like a black Batman or a black Little Mermaid as far as some actual examples. Um, yeah, do we think? I guess we'll try to focus on this, maybe kind of broaden out. What do you think? Do you think Homegirl was completely justified as far as playing? Who did she want to play? Or besides her, tell me, she was another black activist. Seemed like,
Maybe
or do you,
just so.
or do we think?
She's white.
Or do you think you leave the black historical figures to the black and brown folks? Can a white homeboy play Marcus Garvey, Martin Luther King, what's the brother's name? Not W.B. Du Bois. Um, I'm lacking. I'm sorry.
I
It's a
think I know who
laggy.
you're thinking about
It's
too.
a laggy Monday. I'm usually on point. You
W.E.B.
know.
Du Bois.
Yeah. So on
Okay.
and so forth. We'll start with. I'm actually curious to know what you think about it, Wes. What do you think?
I am
pretty much 100% on her side. The funny thing is, the thing about it that makes it weird is the fact that most of these characters, the important thing was their race.
Right.
Like
Yep.
in the stories revolved around their race. Whereas somebody like Andrew Hamilton or whoever else, it wasn't necessarily their race wasn't necessarily an integral part of the story. And the way they were treated and the dynamics and the story and everything like that. So it would make it more complicated for a character to play somebody who is heavily impacted by their race as somebody who is not that race. That's why when we watch it or when we see it or when we hear these things, it is odd. However, I think in the interest of the art, and it is an art of acting, and this applies to me across different art forms, especially if you're portraying something historical. White people have the right to play these things or do these things as well. That doesn't mean it will be well received, but it also doesn't mean it should be banned just by virtue of it being bad, poorly done, or because the person is white necessarily. There can be other reasons why that white person can miss the mark, and or it could be related to them being white, but I don't think it should be just the fact that they're white that makes it an issue necessarily. If it's not good, don't watch it, don't support it. But otherwise, if that person wants to play that character, I think it's okay.
Now, funny. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say, like, does it make it weird in certain situations if that character uses certain language or a certain accent, et cetera, et cetera? Those can be reproaches, but I still think it shouldn't be out and out. You can't do it at all.
Yeah,
there's no
like
way
you said, that all speaks towards like the quality that they can provide in their performance. Because we've all heard like a Caucasian person that if you just listen to them on the phone, you might mistake them for,
Also, you might need to include some notes or something to let the audience know that, hey, this is the actual character, because I feel like people won't necessarily
not to jump
get
the
it.
gun, but one thing I was gonna say in response to you, like you're 100% right in like the race, ethnicity, nationality, just aesthetics of a person, largely play a role in some of these historical figures. And they address this in their lack of desire to do it. But then, what if the person had put on some blackface and they actually fit the role? Would that make it more acceptable in your eyes?
I think that would be a bad idea.
But would it
because
be
of the history of
your eyes?
Because of the history of blackface, that would be a bad idea. And because of the history of blackface, I probably wouldn't love it myself. Is it acceptable on a philosophical ground?
Would it make them fit the role more?
It would make it easier to identify them, but it might not be the best choice, and people would not necessarily like it. So they have to consider that.
One excellent example of blackface being used well.
You're not talking about Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
I never saw him. But I do know that nobody was really up in arms about it.
I think the primary
Jr. is a great example of, and I don't think people actually even care that much since that movie was so much of a comedy. It's a great example of like, how like they say like rappers can get canceled, but if they come back with like a banger, like they can be forgiven. Like if you're an actor and you do some questionable stuff, you come back and you're Iron Man and it's a good Iron Man. Hey man. Tropical Thunder. I don't even know what year did that come out.
Somebody said, who would play Iron Man if he was black? And somebody said Robert Downey Jr.
Sorry, Ghost. Were you gonna say something?
I was just gonna say with the whole blackface thing, I don't think people had a problem with Robert Downey Jr. doing it, or they didn't have a problem then. But the whole point is, if you're actively trying to portray yourself not as a black person, but physically as a black person, or almost not mocking, but like mimicking their features, also plus the history. I think that's the real problem, and that there's a distinction between her portraying this character historically as herself and then putting on blackface. I don't know this.
Well,
There's a distinction there.
I'll pass it off to you. What do you think about this story so far? But I think somebody could say like there's a thin line between like mimicry and honoring.
How do we feel about masks in general? I don't know.
A black mask.
Yeah.
I freaking hate masks.
That sounds scary.
I mean, realistic, unrealistic, any form of mask.
Oh, they got those realistic masks these days
cool.
that people are probably definitely gonna start using.
Yeah.
Those things are
Actually, I saw this.
I don't know.
I saw this.
Just like a masquerade, like style, maybe not too detailed. I don't know. I'm just posing the question.
I saw this UFC fight. Like I went to a fight, and
Really?
the dude came out with a mask. Like I think it was like a Japanese like Oni mask or something like that, and I thought it was badass. I think they can be cool, but probably the more human they get, the more like uncanny.
Yeah, the weirder.
Yeah.
But actors used to wear masks.
That's true.
Pretty sure. Well, a lot of theater involved masks and costume.
Sorry. Yeah. What do you think of this thing so far, Ghost?
The mask. The masks are just in general.
This story. You support Homegirl, or do you think they should have been cool with laying off the black historical female figures?
I support her. I kind of get the library's hang-ups, but I do support her. I do question how the portrayal would have been done. Like I think Wes mentioned, like I don't know, she's trying to put on an accent or something. That's what I think it would be a little. I don't. It's hard to put into words why exactly it would be an issue versus her just being herself and like talking in her normal cadence, but with the intent of representing the black historical figure versus her like trying to put on an accent or blackface. I don't know. I'm trying to like come up with a reason why, but it would be different. Even if she was trying to be respectful with it, but in this case, for now, I don't have a problem with what she was doing, and I'm mostly on her side.
You know, I have somewhat of a response to that, but I guess before that, what about you, Ace? What do you think of this story so far? Are you on Homegirl's side? Do you think you got to leave the black historical figures to black and brown people?
I am more on her side than not. I completely get why the library basically couldn't be, and I'm also fine with their decision to try to prevent her from doing it because essentially they knew they were going to get canceled. So, like in the social media sense. But yeah, like theoretically, there shouldn't be there. Or theoretically, I think it's possible for a white person to portray black, like black historical figures, even if the context is specifically like centered around race, like a figure like Harriet Tubman would be. There's just a lot more inherent risk of backlash because if she gets it wrong, or if it comes off as a caricature, if she gets like any historical facts wrong or anything like that, then there's a like historical context to questions of, well, was it intentional? Like, is she intentionally playing this, as a caricature? Is she not taking it serious? Whereas if a black person does those same things and like kind of gets it wrong, or even if it comes off as caricature, you can still kind of write it off as they're trying to, interpret this in a new way or whatever. Whereas a white person, you could almost like, I feel like there's more of a chance of people thinking that there could be bad intentions. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was excellent points you bring up. And you know what sucks? Even this conversation is meta because as we're talking, I'm just thinking like, to what you're saying, like, we're talking and looking at this in posts, like, as it pertains to this timeline. But I wonder, in the timeline where like the library went through with it in society in general got a hold of this story and was watching this play with this woman playing Harriet Tubman, and they're probably gonna get canceled. Would we? How would we be? Because we try to come here and be like ultra objective, and also get all sides. Would we be on the side of like, yeah, they were dumb for doing that? I don't know. Isn't this,
It really would
I
depend
think
on
you-
her portrayal, but I get what
Exactly.
you're saying, because I know like this is not the equivalent of the N-word argument necessarily, but it's always been you can say it, but be prepared for the consequences. So it's
Yeah.
kind of a similar thing
Mhm.
in
Yeah,
this
yeah.
case. But again, it really would depend on the portrayal and if it's like respectful or if she's over the top in a unsavory way. I feel like if the story came out and let's say it was portrayed in an unsavory way, I would kind of lean on the side of even if she meant well, like you kind of should have expected this. You should know what's coming. I feel like though just hearing her talk without watching the full video, it almost seems like she's kind of like uh unaware or ignorant of any potential drawbacks, which as a historical performer, I would think that wouldn't be the case. But it seems like she's almost like incredulous that people thought like it would even be an issue in the first place. So
Yeah.
From
It's possible, and I think that there's a generational thing to it too. I think that she's not necessarily anticipating the reaction of young people.
I think it's
I think
more so an environment thing. Like we'll watch.
Yeah, maybe that's
I don't know. Like maybe y'all will get the sense of what I'm getting, but this person seems generally like you were saying, goes like they just don't necessarily see the problem with it all. Like I think they've almost even potentially done this before. They've performed
I think-
Black historical.
oh, she's
figure.
100% done this before.
I think the thing is though, I think she cares about the art of performing,
I get that.
and I think that's what she's focused on. But I think that in the context of what it is, she has to make artistic decisions that a person who is black would not need to make in order to make it a successful thing. And it could be tastefully done, it could be, but it has to be evaluated based on what it is, the context, and the fact that she is white playing a black person. She has to know how to navigate that, and she may or may not, but it brings in elements that wouldn't necessarily be there if she wasn't white.
Yeah, I already got more questions, but we'll play a little bit more of it, get more context, see what y'all still on board with y'all currently.
How this is different from the Hamilton play.
In Hamilton, non-white actors portray white historical figures. The debate escalated to the library's diversity and inclusion team. They affirmed the decision, but Hubble refused to swap out the characters, so the library canceled her performance. The library said it won't comment on pending legal matters. Hubble doesn't use makeup for her characters.
I think if people thought I was doing blackface or a parody of these people, not respecting them, then that might be a cause for an objection. But all they have to do is read my stories and they would see how deeply I respect and honor and admire these people.
The San Diego Union Tribune published an opinion piece by a former San Diego city attorney supporting her, and a lawyer from the Pacific Legal Foundation read it.
And they called me and said, "This is horrific." I think that was the very word that Chris used. We need to do something about this.
Hubble says he convinced her to sue.
If these women that
I don't want to load anything onto this. I don't know if you guys are still on board. What I would glean for this, and we don't even like to hyper focus on what this doctor story is sometimes, but what I glean from when I watched this previously is I do get a sense of sincerity from this woman. But I don't know about the legal firm.
No, the legal firm, they're bugging. They got.
Because her explanations like made sense, and I think it was the respect thing is like why the accent would be a problem. But yeah, the horrific thing, it's like, bro, come on, like, we know what they're doing.
All right, sometimes I gotta throw questions out to see if I'm tweaking, but
no, you're most certainly not tweaking.
When between they reached out to them, calling it horrific, I already get the sense that this legal
We already know
this legal firm,
which
her
way
happening.
they-
Especially
already
with the climate that we're in these days.
Right.
Yeah.
Keep playing.
Portray fought against such
Probably gonna have to speak
injustice
just a little bit.
and such egregious wrongdoings in their lives. Who am I to stop at fighting this?
Pacific Legal Foundation says it fights for individual liberties. It's filed suits against implicit bias training, race quotas for licensing boards, and programs meant to close racial opportunity gaps. I asked couples lawyer Chris Barnewall.
I know what all
Government
these
simply
about
doesn't have the right to exclude anyone by race.
Is there hope with any of these cases that it might set legal precedent?
For sure. We do this because we're interested in the impact.
So-called reverse discrimination suits stretch back to at least the 1970s.
Reverse discrimination.
We know
like the Supreme Court ruling against considering race in college admissions. And in San Diego, after a white plaintiff sued, the city removed the race requirement from a program meant to help people of color buy their first home. Dan Eaton is a legal analyst. He says these lawsuits rely on laws
I'm glad to finally see a black
and the
person.
civil rights movement.
The impetus
At least.
of these laws was to address the legal discrimination against particularly formerly enslaved individuals who were African Americans.
But the reasons a law was written don't really matter in a court of law, only what the words say.
And what we are seeing as the law has evolved is the application of these laws or constitutional amendments, as the case may be, to claims by members of the majority.
Interesting to see that all be turned on its head.
Angie Chandler has advised arts institutions across the country, including in San Diego. She's also played Harriet Tubman.
Even as a Black woman, it was one of the most difficult roles I've ever had to play.
And she'd love to play Mary McLeod Bethune, whose body, she says, was central to her experience.
A woman over 200 pounds, dark-skinned Black woman living in the 1800s.
So I think we're all now on board about the race of a character or a historical figure definitely could have some impact. Did I remember? Do we put the weight in that category too? The fat person have to be a historical fat
Unless it's
person?
like a very specific person that's known for having physical traits.
I don't think she's saying that though. I think she's just saying that the character is. The historical person is important to her because she also was, over 200 pounds. Like
she relates.
Just relates to.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
That is an interesting question, though.
Yeah, I guess so.
I don't think I've ever heard people get pissed about someone. Oh, you know what? Nope. I take it back.
Yeah, I think that.
I take it back.
Keep playing.
The 1900s in this country. There is not a way that I can even invite you into what it's like to walk around this country in a similar body in 2025.
She says Hubble's performance is not the same as the colorblind casting in Hamilton.
It's not a two-way street because colorblindness is a response. Colorblindness is a response to historic exclusion, to the erasure of our stories.
And she says it ignores the harmful history of white people portraying people of color.
The foundation of the American art movement means that it will never be as simple, innocent, and neutral for a white person to attempt to tell or perform the story of a Black person.
This is her.
I'm
gonna stop this real quick because I have.
So something like that sister is on the side of like, there's a lot of rationale to why a Caucasian person shouldn't play a Black and brown person.
I'm lost. How is this not the same as Hamilton? Because I most certainly do not have any love for Hamilton, but how is it not the same thing?
Because their race actually their race did not necessarily play into their story. Black people in this time period.
Okay, in
Hamilton, them being white,
I wasn't
necessarily
aware of that. I didn't
change how
know
they were treated by people around them or whatever. It wasn't an essential element in the story, but race is going to be a central element in stories where you're talking about slavery or whatever, because it impacts the characters so much.
Okay, I didn't know that much about Hamilton, but I thought that there were like historically Black figures in the Hamilton play, and I know it's like not 100% one-to-one to history.
No, Hamilton was played by Lin-Manuel, I think, right? And so they were white characters that were played by Black people, but that doesn't impact the story as much because those characters, those people, were not necessarily impacted by being white in the same way that people are impacted by being black.
In the historical context of the real people, like, so I'm just kind of confused because it seems like if there were real black people in Hamilton and they're being portrayed, you're saying that it just had absolutely no bearing at all on the story.
Hamilton being white didn't make his character. It didn't impact his character as much as Harriet Tubman being black. It's like a white person, if a white historical person in the past 10 years, if a black person plays them, or vice versa, technically, we should be more open to these things because it's not to say that racism doesn't exist anymore, but it's not a factor in that person's story so much. Harriet Tubman was a representative of someone who was in slavery and helped free slaves. And so
I think I get your point. I was just mostly confused because I guess there's just absolutely no racism in Hamilton play, but I don't
know about Hamilton. Yeah. I didn't watch it. I don't know exactly what the story is, but I know that American presidents and American figures like this, their whiteness did not. I mean, it helped them, but it wasn't part of their story in the way that the blackness of a Harriet Tubman or whoever else impacts the story. It is the point of the story. Yeah,
it's interesting. Right. I'd almost like to talk to that sister more because it seemed like they're a voice for somebody that is on the side of it doesn't make sense for a Caucasian person to play black historical figures, especially from themselves being in the field of arts. But I don't know. It kind of, I don't know. Y'all know me. I always have this back and forth in my mind. Like, do we, having seen most of this, do we think in the world in which this person does this performance, and that it's very sincere, it's very respectful, it's very true to the historical representation of Harriet Tubman, do you think society would there would still be backlash and cancellation? Just point blank period?
Yeah.
Yes. I feel like, I mean, and we are.
So basically, there's no right way this woman can do that part.
For some people.
Not to satisfy everybody.
Exactly.
I'm talking about the consensus. Well, the majority of people.
Consensus, I think.
Majority of black people?
Well, yeah. Yes, black people. By black, brown people.
I think.
Black Twitter would be like, nah.
Today, I mean, are we leaning more? I don't know.
Yeah, there's no way. Actually, there's no way.
I feel like people would be leaning more against. Although, to be clear, my stance is if it is done well, if it is enjoyable, or you can learn something from it, and it's well done art, there's an appreciation I can have for it. Does it mean it's gonna be my favorite version of this type of thing? No.
Well, yeah,
but
before we even
if
get
it's
to
done well, it's done well. There's gonna be black people who are just like, nah, this don't make no sense. It's not good.
No matter what.
It doesn't make sense to me, so it's no good, which isn't a critique that's fair. There's gonna be other black people who are like, I don't like it because she's white, and that's it. I'm not thinking about whether it was how it was done, how well done it was. No,
I'm just trying to figure out if we're on the wrong or right side of history with this, because I think we all agree, like, unless anyone changed their mind, we really wouldn't care if this person played that role. We're not necessarily. It's not going to be our favorite rendition of it. It's not going to even be. We're not going to have a hyper interest in it. We're not going to think it's the best. We might not.
Although I say it might not be the best. I don't know. I could be shocked, but
I'll go ahead and say, like, when we started the video and we just first time seeing her in the getup, I have an immediate like kind of a negative reaction to seeing it, and that's just like it's supernatural. It's super like I kind of have to stop and think about it and be like, okay, yes, and then go through all the reasons why it should be. It has the potential to be okay, but I do have just a natural like negative reaction. I think it's because of the historical context. Mm-hmm. So, if like I don't necessarily I don't expect that the majority of black people, especially that would be vocal about it, would would even necessarily want to go past that initial negative reaction. And I don't necessarily blame them for that either. I grew up in a way where I didn't necessarily have to deal with a lot of the, negative, racial issues that a lot of, if not the majority of Black people have. So there's also that, like, contributing to the reason why I may be able to step back and be willing to at least give it a chance, whereas maybe the majority is not.
And I think a point too is that, like, if I were to say, if I was of the camp where no, she's white, I'm not even going any farther than that. I probably wouldn't, in general, I probably wouldn't go to watch this first. But even if I wasn't of the camp where I'm not saying that, if this thing got popular, I can see also the backlash of, why are we pushing this when a story told by a Black person could have been more, should have been more emphasized in the place of it because of the more authentic connection to the story and everything like that. And I can see that argument making sense because, if this thing is blown up and it's like, well, it's the story of a Black woman during slavery, like, why would this be the most trending thing like that? I can see that annoying people as well.
I think one of my last things on this, because we could spend a whole podcast on this type of topic. Do you think this contends with, and I don't know if we've ever extensively talked about this, do you think this contends with, like, the idea of, like, things should be strictly, because now I'm kind of leaning into towards, like, the assumption this person could put on a phenomenal play or she could phenomenally perform these roles. Do you think this kind of contends with, like, the idea of things being merit based? And I think we generally agree that they should. But I guess this is art, so is that even applicable? But I mean, there is.
I feel like
qualities to merit based being art.
I feel like I would easily read her work, but watching it,
that's just your bias as a book reader.
No, but I mean, yes, but at the same time, like,
I do agree with that.
I don't know. There's something if you can see how she treats it. Like she said, if somebody read her work, you would see how she treats the subject. And if she treats the subject with respect, I think I could respect the piece of work. I could respect the art. But this does add a dynamic where it's just a level of complication above that.
Yeah. I have generally been thinking about this though, like, people of one sect of society, there's a better way to put that, but, like, playing another, especially, like, underprivileged or disadvantaged sets of people, like, people that have physical impairments, mental impairments and disabilities and things like that. And it's tough because from a kind of just theoretical standpoint, I feel like that's what acting is supposed to be. Like,
exactly.
You're supposed to be able to portray, like, the point is to portray other characters and get into. What'd you say?
Don't say that.
I don't know if I repeat that.
Yeah, don't repeat
it. I mean, we're recording, so it's already too late. But
they're by nature portraying someone who's not themselves. It's not them.
Yes, and theoretically, I do feel like they should be able to go to the extreme with that, because it's like it's the extreme of their craft. It's the I mean, it's kind of like the height of their ability to be able to portray something that's completely outside of their own realm of experience, and to be able to get into that role, get into that character, and
what's
still
interesting?
portray it honestly and compellingly. So
what you're saying is 100% right, and I can't think of, like, the best example of this, and I know there are some examples that often fall short. You say that, and that's 100% true, but I think there are some examples of, like, we have a a high level of appreciation where somebody from that lineage plays that role, and kind of gives it like a full circle,
Because
more
it's
in
the
depth,
social aspect.
in depth.
It's-
Like if Martin Luther King Jr.'s like great great grandson, I don't think he's that old, great grandson, played him, and like he's heard stories from his uncles of what he was really like, and really was able to play that role. Maybe he's not necessarily the best person to play Martin Luther King, but he just he just, one, we appreciate the fact that they kept it in family, and two, he has some level of in depth experience or knowledge. I think we would also really appreciate that over him being the best performer.
Yeah, and
You
if
know
he
what,
had
the
the same
first
voice and he
example I
looked
thought
like
of
him, that would make people really connect with his actual character. What were you saying, Ghost?
I was gonna say the first thing I thought of was Ice Cube's son playing him in.
What's crazy? The first thing that came to my mind was the NWA stuff too, but I don't think people really see. I know it was like a good solid rendition, but I don't know if people super liked some of that
But
stuff.
this is the fundamental question that has to be posed to every artist, or when casting or creating characters or whatever, is how important is the social impact of the story you're trying to tell? Because if it's just the artistic integrity, yeah, the best actor might be a person not of the group that is trying to be played or whatever, or not of the sex. It might be whoever. The very best actor who could really, really play the role might not be
A
the
guy
person
could play a
that you
better girl
want
than
to
that girl.
choose. But I didn't say that. But but you need to consider the social context and what it's going to do to the audience, and if the audience will accept it, and if it makes sense. I think you have to gauge it, and that's what I guess casting directors do, or whatever, people who have that job, they have to weigh that and make that decision. But I think we're never just, or never, especially when it's a real situation or historical characters and stuff like that. You're never really just in the case of an artistic choice.
Yeah,
You have to consider everything around that.
yeah, I think that makes
I,
sense.
w-
I think. Oh, go ahead, Ace.
I was just gonna say, like, also there doesn't have to be one portrayal of the person and that's it. Like, people are going to continue to try to portray these historical figures, and yes, the portrayal of just a relative of the person is going to have its own merits in the terms of in the eyes of people, in the eyes of the audience, versus somebody who can just, who is not related or of a different race or whatever, and they just portray it extremely well because they just have the innate acting ability to play that person extremely well. Like, these things can exist side by side, and you may say you like one more than the other, but that doesn't necessarily mean one is how it always should be, and one is, we shouldn't ever be the case. Like, these things can exist in parallel.
Yeah, but like I said, I can also understand the backlash if one version gets super popular
Yeah.
and it's not a version with an authentic character. And people say, as far as representation in Hollywood, and why would you choose somebody when there's X number of other black or whatever the character is, artists that can do the same job or do it better. There's always going to be that. And in a way, it's understandable. It's like, why would this version have gotten to the level it's gotten to? And who's doing that to the story? And is it a bad representation? Or is it, a is it unfitting for that version to be the reference of everyone? I don't know.
Yeah, I can definitely get on board with that. I think that's the more of the story. A lot of stuff that you're breaking down, Wes. The only other part I was just gonna end it on is, while we are never dismissive of any type of discrimination on here, some of y'all gotta chill with the reverse racism. Y'all gotta chill. Like, we get it, but come on. But if there's nothing else for right now, we can go on to the next, I think, last topic. Yeah, that was the first thing. How much? She got 60,000? Is that what that said? Yeesh.
Damn, what? For what?
They
60,000.
They discriminate. What do you mean?
For what is it? Emotional.
Yeah, I'll let.
I would say
No,
emotional
let me not.
damage. No, that's not what it's.
I'll take emotional damage for $60,000, bro. I'll have some racist white person just throw a hard and around. I'm joking. I'm joking. 60,000 is crazy.